So let's talk about why you emotionally eat at night. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Michelle. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist specializing in emotional eating. And I wanted to talk about why you emotionally eat at night. So when I'm working with clients, a lot of the times they find that they are emotionally eating at night and it feels like they're out of control. They can't figure out what's going on and they can't stop themselves because it's sort of the end of the day. There's nothing else they are obligated to do. And that's sort of a key piece. When we're emotional eaters, what we're doing is we're using food to cope with discomfort, uncomfortable emotions, with distress, and this can be coming up throughout the day. And when we have a pause in our day, like in the evening, when we don't have anything else to do, when we don't have to think about anything else, these emotions come to the surface and they want to be looked at. But as an emotional eater, if we cope with our emotions and we use food to sort of soothe or numb out or distract from it, automatically when these emotions pop up, we go towards food. Our brain says it's time to eat. And so we feel like we're in this constant loop at the end of the day. Why is this happening? And so in order to help your emotional eating in the evening, you have to understand, I just gave you sort of the what's exactly going on, but you have to understand why is this happening. So yes, emotional eating is a coping mechanism, but there might be some other factors that are happening throughout the day creating this evening emotional eating. So as emotional eaters, what I tend to see in clients is that they are very busy, they're going throughout the day. They don't tend to take the time to nourish themselves, take breaks, move through any discomfort or stressors at work. Maybe there's no time or they don't give themselves the break. And so these little triggers that are happening throughout the day when we're busy, they can, kind of distract us as well. We're not instantly going towards food because we have to hop to the next thing and the next thing. And so we can kind of push aside our emotional eating or push aside these stressors. Doesn't mean they go away. And what you need to get good at is noticing when are you having these moments, when are you having these triggers that you can push away that eventually build up. And by the end of the day, you feel out of control or you're rushing home to eat dinner and you're out of control. You need to emotionally eat. You just have this extreme urge. That urge didn't just pop out of nowhere. It's been building up throughout the day, maybe over the last few days. And when you finally have that time in the evening for dinner or after work, you're going to want to emotionally eat because your brain is like, I've had too much, there's too much stress, there's too much going on, there's too much discomfort. And the only thing I know to do is to go towards food to soothe myself. I only know to go towards food to numb myself. And this is all happening really subconsciously. So I've had clients on their way home from work, they're picking up a dozen cookies. As they're getting home, they're just imagining all the food they're going to eat. They can see the emotional eating starting to happen. And so part of really detaching from this emotional eating and really seeing it's emotional eating is you have to look at your whole day. Sometimes we're going to get those extreme urges at the end of the day when we are also not taking breaks throughout the day to nourish ourselves, whether that be with nourishing food or just taking a pause in our day to move our body, to just decompress, to sort of evaluate what's going on. And so when we don't do that, they build up and they get to the evening. But what I see with clients when we do the deeper work on their emotional eating is that this pattern goes back to childhood where their needs weren't met. And so they are just running on autopilot. And so we have to look at what are your needs. And the only way to really know that is that we can go through sort of on the surface level, which is what I do with clients, certain needs they need to have met, physical needs in terms of nourishing their body, not restricting, taking breaks, honoring their physical body. If they're tired, getting enough rest, really, really connecting to their body. And then, of course, being able to meet those emotional needs and notice those triggers, notice those little, discomforts or stressors that we push aside and really looking at what do we need from them. So maybe we've had a really intense work meeting and we need to go for a walk, or maybe we're at the office and it's super busy and very overstimulating and we need to take a breather and we need to reconnect and we need some time for ourselves. Or maybe something bigger is being triggered by work. There's this deeper layer of trauma, unprocessed emotions from childhood that's just under the surface, and we can just sort of let it be there. But the stressors of work, the stressors of not taking care of ourselves, they come in and fill that bucket and it overflows. So the deeper work is really looking at these uncomfortable, sort of unresolved emotions from childhood. And this is the biggest thing that I see shifting this pattern. And so you have to sort of almost take stock of, if you are able to nourish yourself, you feel like you're taking care of yourself, and you're still having these emotional eating episodes, it's not getting into it. When I work with clients and we do the deeper work and process through their emotional eating, so I use a somatic process with psychotherapy tools to really get to the root. We follow the triggers and the emotional eating episodes back to the root. And it always goes back. We go as far back, and it ends up in childhood. It's not usually the work meeting or the dispute with your partner that's really the thing triggering your emotional eating. It is just tipping the bucket over. So there's all this stuff under the surface, and it's just tipping it over. And so until we really get to that root and clear it out and shift it, and you do that deeper work, your emotional eating is sort of hinging on this little bit of, the stressors in day-to-day life that you're experiencing. And so when we do that deeper work and we shift it, we shift that stressor, that unresolved emotion at that deeper level, that's going to really move the needle with your emotional eating. And so when I'm working with clients, this is part of the process of them getting to that place. So in the evenings, these emotions, these stressors are coming up. And while you might think, work wasn't that stressful, or this wasn't that stressful, why am I feeling this way? You need the deeper tools and work to get into the deeper layers, into this, to get to this core issue, to resolve it. And what I've seen with clients, it shifts how they are around food. And that can happen in one session, or depending on how much trauma you have, over several sessions. And this is part of the process inside of the Emotional Eating Evolution Program, which is a 12-week container. And so we have to be aware, sometimes we think just because we experienced something and it was in the past, time heals all wounds. That's not necessarily the case. Unless you process and really integrate on a body level what happened to you, those uncomfortable emotions, especially if you have emotional eating as a pattern, you've been using food to just cover them up. And we really need to see what's been running the show. You have to be able and willing to dive in deeper. So this is usually why I see clients emotionally eating in the evening. When we really get down to it, is emotional hunger. And so we have to be able to discern true from emotional hunger. And if you want to dive in deeper into that, I have a free guide called What Are You Truly Hungry For? You can find it below. And once we're able to really tap into that emotional hunger and see those triggers happening, and then do the deeper process, what we're finding is these unresolved issues from the past. And they don't have to be, these unresolved events are traumas, and trauma doesn't have to be scary. Like, trauma is on a spectrum from little t to big T. It just means you experienced something and you didn't fully process it. And a lot of the times what I'm seeing with clients is a smaller T trauma is not being seen, heard, validated, accepted, and needing to move through and process that so that they can finally release that emotion, move through it, and really truly meet their true needs, not using food as a band-aid to soothe themselves. So if you're willing to do the deeper work, you can get to the root of your emotional eating and get to the other side, and no longer have this evening sort of emotional eating or binging, because that's why a lot of the times we are so busy in our lives, we can avoid these emotions that are coming up, because our body wants to process them. It wants to move through it. It wants to get back to a state of ease and peace and confidence, because when we hold in these emotions, they get locked in our body and they're on a low level chronic stress level, which creates unease, poor digestion, mood imbalance, low self-esteem, low confidence, a feeling of unease in our body, like something's going on and we don't quite understand. And so when I'm working with clients, this is a key part in moving through their emotional eating. So if you want to really resolve your emotional eating, the first step I recommend to clients and anyone is really to start discerning true from emotional hunger and catching your triggers. And if you want to get started on that exercise, you can download the free guide below. And if you're ready to resolve your emotional eating, you want to shift this pattern so you get to ease and confidence and peace around food and in your body, then you can check out more about my 12-week program, the Emotional Eating Evolution Program. So in this 12-week container, there's lots of support, guidance, a step-by-step process, and in-depth tools to really shift the pattern at the root so that you can get to that ease and peace and confidence around food and in your body in a sustainable way. So the link for that will be below. If you have any questions about what I shared today, please let me know. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and I look forward to sharing more with you, and I hope you have a great day.